Dear viewers, thank you for joining me today. Your time, your attention, and your presence mean more than I can ever express. I hope this story grips you, haunts you a little, and makes you feel every heartbeat of what follows. She played an innocent prank and lost her husband for a year. Was it her mistake or just fate? The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, its light flickering against the dim morning sun sneaking through the blinds. I reached for it, expecting her usual good morning, love text, but the message read differently. Gone for a while. Don't wait. My stomach twisted. I thought it was some kind of joke. After all, she loved pranks. But something in the air felt wrong, heavy, suffocating. I remember that morning clearly. How the sunlight bounced off the chipped coffee mug she'd bought me last Christmas. How the silence in the apartment was suddenly too loud. I called her number. Straight to voicemail. I called again. And again. Nothing. Panic started crawling up my spine. She had always been playful, mischievous even. That was one of the reasons I loved her. But playful had boundaries. Or at least I thought it did. I opened our shared email, expecting some explanation, a casual note like, "Just kidding. See you at lunch." Instead, I found nothing. Nothing except a lingering sense of absence that gnawed at me. Days turned into a week. I tried to convince myself that she'd staged the prank, something elaborate, something designed to make me worry but ultimately bring me joy. But nights were worse. Lying in the bed that still smelled faintly of her perfume, I felt the walls closing in. I remembered the way she'd laughed just a week before, brushing her hair back and whispering, "I like seeing you worried. It makes you human." That laughter, once comforting, now felt like mockery echoing in the empty apartment. Slowly, the disbelief transformed into suspicion. I replayed every interaction, every text, every small omission. Was it really a prank, or had I been blind to something bigger? I started checking her phone, her social media, places I'd never imagined looking before. Each time, I felt a pang of guilt, but the anxiety was unbearable. Something didn't add up. It was 3 weeks in when I first saw the subtle hints. A photo tagged with someone I didn't recognize, a location check-in miles away from where she said she'd be. Small things, seemingly insignificant, but when pieced together, they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. My chest tightened every time I thought of it, and my sleep became fragmented, haunted by shadows of a truth I wasn't ready to face. Then came the confrontation. I remember it like a knife twisting in slow motion. She returned one evening, drenched in rain, hair plastered to her face, eyes wide as if seeing a ghost. "I told you not to wait," she said, voice trembling. There was fear in her tone, but also a strange detachment. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but instead, I could only watch, frozen. I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she whispered, clutching my jacket as if it were a lifeline. Her hands shook. I wanted to reach for her, but all I felt was the betrayal blooming like a dark flower in my chest. "It's not a joke, is it?" My voice was hoarse, cracking under the weight of months of loneliness and growing doubt. She shook her head, silent tears streaking down her face. For a moment, I let myself believe it wasn't real. Maybe she had been kidnapped, maybe it was some unthinkable accident. But the truth was impossible to ignore. The details emerged slowly, painfully. She hadn't just left. She had disappeared with someone else. A man I didn't know, whose presence had been hidden behind casual lies, playful texts, and half-truths. The revelation shattered me. I wandered through our apartment like a ghost, touching objects she had left behind, each one a reminder of intimacy betrayed. The scent of her shampoo, the crumpled throw blanket, the notebook where she'd once scribbled love notes to me. They all felt like instruments of torture. I couldn't reconcile the woman I loved with the one who had erased me from her life for a year. Anger followed grief, sharp and unrelenting. I wanted to scream at her, to strike, to demand justice. But by the time she returned, I had learned restraint in the most brutal way. My heartbreak had taught me patience, and patience revealed details she hadn't intended to leave. Her stories contradicted themselves, timelines didn't match, and her eyes betrayed a guilt she couldn't fully conceal. The slow unveiling of betrayal forced me to confront my own complicity. How had I missed the signs? The subtle flirtations, the late-night messages, the sudden interest in friends I'd never met. I had trusted her blindly, and that trust had become my weakness. Months passed before I could speak to her without my voice breaking. Each conversation was a minefield, each smile a potential dagger. She begged for forgiveness, citing loneliness, confusion, and a series of impulsive choices. I listened, weighing her humanity against the devastation she had caused. I realized that love, even when betrayed, is complicated. It is both beautiful and painful, like fire on the skin. Finally, after a year of silence, soul-searching, and reflection, I made my decision. I met her in the park where we had shared our first picnic. The autumn leaves swirled around us, golden and fiery, mirroring the storm that had lived between us. "I've thought about this a lot," I said quietly. "You made choices, I lived with consequences. And I survived." She looked at me, tears glistening, and for a moment, I wondered if she truly understood the depth of what she had lost. I did not raise my voice. I did not scream. I simply turned, feeling the weight of the past year dissolve slightly with each step I took away. Some might call it fate, others a mistake. She called it a prank gone wrong. But in the end, it didn't matter. Life had its own cruel sense of timing, and we were left to reckon with the fragments of trust, love, and betrayal that had once bound us together. I walked alone but not defeated. Each step was a testament to resilience, to the human capacity to endure heartbreak, suspicion, and grief. I would carry the memory of her, of the laughter and the betrayal, but I would not let it define the rest of my life. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and blood, I understood something crucial. Some stories are meant to be lived through, not rewritten. Some pain is meant to shape us, to teach us that trust is fragile, love is powerful, and sometimes what feels like a mistake is simply the course of fate.